Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Pete, and on this series we're going to be discovering the Farnley branch line. That runs from the Leeds-Dewsbury main line and also where the Leeds new line used to go to Farnley, and Farnley had an engine shed, and that's where we're going to end up at the end of this series. But that line has brought me on a bit of a journey, and it's been a hell of a research mission, and I hope to share some of that with you and show you the amount of research that does go into making some of these videos, because this one has been extremely complicated. It's still incomplete, so if there are stories that you know, please write them in the comments on the video, not on Facebook or anywhere like that, but on the video. Hit the thumbs up button and press subscribe. It is completely free. This series is probably going to run for 3 or 4 episodes. I'll see how I can condense it down. But what you're looking at behind me there is a hedgerow. There wasn't always a hedgerow. Apparently that used to be a tank, a sifting tank for a mine that used to be there behind me. That was called Cottage Springs lift shaft. Now, I've been speaking to a local, and I've got permission to be everywhere that you're going to see on this episode. So I'd like to say thank you, Phil, for letting me on your land and showing me around and telling me some information about the place. But that quarry there behind us had a light railway going towards it, and it used to run at the other side of that, what is ultimately a square, but I will go up there and I will point the camera back down and show you it. And it used to run along that hedgerow there, a light railway. And there is a small piece of that rail left, and Phil, the landowner, has been kind enough to show me it, and I videoed that, so stay tuned for that one and I'll show you that. Now, these were all part of the Farnley iron and clay works that own a number of pits around here. Through my research, they own at least 15 pits that I know of. Now, that company started in 1844, and I suspect these pits are much older than that. And most of the pits on this part of the line that we're going to be looking at were closed by about 1913. But before then, it's always been mining country, this part of Farnley, Leeds. And they used to create what was called bell pits, and we're going to go into what is left of Farnley wood, which used to cover all this behind me here. I'll put up an old map so you can just see how much of this woodland has gone. And I've been quite fortunate to be able to gain access to the last bit of Farnley wood that exists today. It's ever such a small section, and it is virtually covered in oak trees. It's an old oak wood, what this used to be. Of course, this would have all been harvested for the oak, probably for the mines that are around here. There used to be a row of cottages just in front of me there now. I'll turn the camera around and show you what's there now. They've all gone. There were 19 cottages at this site, and there are some photographs of them from about 1965, and they are quite derelict at that point. They were built in 1850 to 1855 with a number of rows of cottages to house the workers for the Farnley clay works and these mines that were out here. So we'll turn the camera around and I'll show you what's there today. We'll go to the maps now, and what I'm hoping to cover in this series is the Farnley branch line, which, if you watch the cursor, you can see this triangle here. This line here was originally opened as the Leeds and Dewsbury line, and also running close to that was the Leeds new line, which joined onto here. But for us, we're interested in what's in there when we get there. This railway line that runs along here, across Whitehall Road, and into this area here, which is now a modern industrial estate, but it wasn't. That used to be the Farnley Iron and Fire Clay Works, which we'll go into when we reach there. But this railway line was standard gauge, and it ended about there. Now, the Fire Clay Works owned its own railway, which was narrow gauge, and that consisted of loads of sheds and things around here, railway lines, and that railway line ran through Farnley, which is through there, across top of Lawns Lane. It would have gone through this estate, round the back there. I'm going to zoom it in a little bit, and you can see in the land that line that follows the railway that used to be there and into this field. This farm wasn't here, but this used to be called Soden's Pit. It was a mine for coal and ironstone, and that used to run across through there, down this edge, and then it would turn here across this road here, Lowmore Lane, and then it would come across back across Whitehall Road along the side of the cemetery. And I'll just centralise this a bit more so we can see. This, you can see clear as day, is an embankment, and we get as far as here on this episode. We'll go to this junction. Down here there used to be Briggs Pit. Again, that was another one that was doing coal and ironstone, possibly in disuse by 1913. So this is how long ago we're talking. But clear as day, look. You've got this going through here. Now this all used to be embankment. It's all been levelled out. And there, all levelled out. And in this field it's gone. And we walk up this lane here to meet the railway there at that point. Here. This is still an embankment. There's a bit of a drain there. And then it used to turn off up here to a day pit that was there. And then it also used to carry straight on here and turn to there. Now I'll zoom that in a little bit closer. There used to be a row of houses here that we're going to go see. This square here used to be apparently a filtration tank, and there was a pit here, Cottage Springs Pit, and apparently this used to have 9 shafts. Now all this area is covered in historical mines, but we'll have a look at these cottages that used to be here shortly. Now just before we go to the mines, going back to the side-by-side map here, we can see the triangle on the right, which is the modern day view, and the one on the left is what used to be there. When we get there we'll see that this bridge is still intact, and that'll be our marker point of where we can line things up with old photographs. And it's this line here, look, the London and North Western Railway. This line opened in 1846 and it was built to serve the old clay works, well, the Farnley Iron Works as it's marked there, but it predominantly did bricks, and it did bricks for all over the world, which we'll discuss when we get there. Now you can see all the railway line and the embankment still here. The railway line is not, I should have said, sorry, but you can see how busy this place is with railways. And when we get there I'm going to be discussing some of the locomotives that used to run this line, and I've managed to find out a few, and I've even got a photograph of one. Bearing in mind this area will have closed down in the 50s, I think 1956, and it opened in 1844. But going back to our light railway where we're starting off, this is where I believe engine sheds are, and we've got a pond here. The light railway with the siding there came all the way down through the housing estate as mentioned, round through there, round through Soden's Pit, just moving along, and you can see on the old map on the left the actual route, and we can see it on the map on the right, the modern day view, where it scarred the land. This is our line here that we're along today, and we get as far as this point here. So going back, notice old coal pit, old coal pit, old coal pit. Just look how many old coal pits there were. Now there's a piece of railway that goes up there as well to this mine here, which was known as a day mine, and apparently that had, this is quite a valley to see, and this had a mine shaft that went in through the side of the hill. Now there is virtually nothing left of this railway. We'll go down there, and this is where we are. This is where we're starting at this point here. The old Farnley wood lift pit, as mentioned earlier, had like 9 shafts on there at one time. Now it's a traveller's camp. But we can see here that the marking is there of that square. We can see here a row of cottages, Cottage Springs. They no longer exist. They are on the left map, but we have got some photographs there. Again, old pit, and we get to go in this wood here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom it out, and I'm going to bring up a map that's pre-1840, I believe, that shows us this as a wooded area. Now there are air shafts and pits everywhere here, and if you look at the map on the right, where my cursor is, these little dots everywhere are entrances to what was called a bell pit, and they're also in the wood. So I'll just pull up an older map. Here we are. I've pulled up the older map on the left, and I've zoomed it out quite a bit. Now if you look on the right, this is the area where the cottages are, and the pit and the railway used to end. Now if you look on the left, you can see the size of Farnley wood. This is huge, and all that is left is just this little outcrop here. If you look on the right map, you'll see it. Look on the left, you can see how small that section is and how large it was. Farnley Wood became known for the Farnley Wood plot, where some parliamentarians gathered together, 26 of them in all, who plotted to take over the Royalists in Leeds. This is in 1663, after Cromwell and after the reinstated King Charles II. Now it was a failed plot. Nothing ever happened other than a meeting in the wood. They were found out, they were all gathered up, and they were all taken and executed. 23 were executed in York, 3 were executed in Northallerton, some were even hung, drawn and quartered. And there are some horrifically violent pictures of the day depicting that. So what I wanted to do is just zoom this into you a little bit, because even when this was a wood, we can see old coal pits, old coal pits, old coal pits everywhere, dotting this. Right in this surviving bit of woodland here, we do have evidence of bell pits, coal mining. This is long before the technology existed to do, never mind open mine casting, but deep shaft mining. And we go into this field. If you look on the right, we go into this field here, we've got some dark dots. These are old bell pits, and you can see the beige ones in these fields here really clear, and occasionally these sink down. Now the gentleman from this farm came out and spoke to me. He was kind enough to show me around and showed me a lot of things to the land and what's left. And there is a building there on the right hand map that remains of the cottages, which we will be looking at. So that being the site of Cottingley Spring Pit, this being the tank, the railway line going along there, and we can rejoin it up there a little bit. It's quite a foggy day today. This is our row of cottages that was here. Now that pit did employ somewhere around 90 men that I've found, and these cottages, as I've found out, were destroyed in about 1966, no later than probably 1967, and they were called Cottingley Spring Cottages, or Cottingley Springs. This area does have a spring, hence its name, which feeds some ponds here, some fishing ponds, and I believe they are good fishing. So if you're a fisherman and you want some good fishing, There are a couple of ponds here, so you probably need to come and inquire about them. Now this is the end of the cottages, and then through that fence there is what's left of all these buildings that were here. Now those toilets are quite modern for these fishing ponds, but I was informed that those are actually tapped into the sewerage works, or the sewerage pipes, for what these rows of cottages were. So they did have sewerage facilities. Now we have got permission, we will be going on the other side of this fence. That is the remains of Cottingley Wood, where there was a number of bell pits, which I'll explain what those are when we're going through there. But that brick building, which we are going to go and see, is the remains of stables that are related to the cottages and probably the mines that were in this area. But for now, we're going to be heading off in a moment. As you look around those lands there, you can see how uneven they are. And here, these are all pits, bell pits that were dug out, and which over the years have been filled in, of course, when they were disused. But every now and again they collapse, so they have to fill them in again, and the mounds are what's left of what was dug out of those pits. So what we're looking at here is the remains of stables that were attached to Cottingley Springs, which were here. That up there is the remains of Finley Wood, and we're going to go up there in a moment and I'll show you what there is left up there of the coal industry. What we are looking at here is inside those stables. There's the original hay rack that we're looking at here. There is a hoop on the front of that trough. Those troughs will be made out of Farnley clay. They are glazed. There's one of the hoops there, look. I couldn't see any maker's marks on it. You can see how dusty it is. But yeah, they're made out of Farnley clay, and this is all that remains of Cottingley Springs cottages. After looking at the Cottingley cottages, we'll move across into Farnley Wood, where there is evidence of ancient mining going on with bell pits. I'll put some pictures up showing you what a bell pit is. A bell pit is a primitive method of mining coal, iron ore, or other minerals lying quite close to the surface. A shaft is sunk to reach the mineral, which is excavated by miners, transported to the surface by a winch, and removed by means of bucket, much like a well. The bottom of the shaft is enlarged and a sloping roof is created as the desired mineral and surrounding rock is removed, as you can see in these pictures, giving its name as a bell pit because its cross section resembles a bell. Typically they weren't mined with supports, and they just went until they started collapsing, until they were too dangerous to mine, and then they would backfill them. But all the spoil would be left on the surface pretty much, and that is poor quality soil mixed with coal and whatever rock came out with that. As you can see, I've just shown you a bit of soil here. It is terrible for growing anything, and if you notice the trees, they are growing in such a way because they get poor footings and roots that the trees basically grow any way they can. At Farnley we can see where some of these bell mines were, because the tops have now sunk down, which I am showing you in this video. But also in different areas of Leeds, these mines also ended up being converted into open cast mining, and there is a picture there where you can see that there's been a shaft sunk, the bell at the bottom, and where it's been converted to open cast, so you can actually see what was going on. And as we look across the land in this last little bit of video of the mining, we can see all the undulations, which are very unnatural, and they are created by spoil heaps from the sheer amount of bell mines that were in this area. Next we'll move on and we'll continue on with the railway. When I got to Cottingley Springs, the owner of the land, I got speaking to him, and he mentioned he had a piece of narrow gauge rail from the railway because the railway used to cross his land. When it was ripped up, they clearly didn't take everything away, because what we're looking at now is probably the only piece left of Farnley Iron Clay Works narrow gauge railway. I was never expecting to see anything like that on here. It's absolutely amazing this still survives. We'll continue along the line and we'll see what else we can find. So leaving Cottingley Springs behind us, which is along this row here, the line continued on through this field. We're not walking through there. It has been completely levelled out. There are no traces, unless you look at satellite images, of the line that ran through there, which would bend to the right heading up to Whitehall Road, but there was also a spare going straight down just over that brow into Briggs mine. Turn the camera around a moment. This is looking back to Cottingley Springs. Cottingley Springs mine was just down there slightly, but there was also a spare off up into the fields over there. But these lines were forever changing and being modified, because these quarries, these mines didn't last long. They soon basically exhausted what's in there. But we're lucky enough to see on this field it's not been taken down. This is actually an embankment. And we can see it's fairly flat from there, but it's mounded up here with a pile of rubble, probably from what these were, where they've gone through the stone wall to access the field as well. But if I go to the other side, there's a drainage ditch, but we can also clearly see an embankment, and that ran here. There is a public footpath up there, but we're not going to go up there because we need to go right round the other side and start coming down from Whitehall Road and picking up from where we can get to. But the track ran through here, eventually caving off up to Whitehall Road, and that's where we're going to pick up, where I can get close to what was Briggs mine. So we've come further along the line from that bit direction there to what is the first main junction of this light railway. There's really not a lot here to say that it was here, but there is on the other side of that camera there. But down there behind me, I'll turn the camera around. So that was behind me. That would go straight on, and this is the actual track bed, which would have gone down there, and then it would have also turned left here as well. Not quite there, but here, down that hedgerow, and that would have been going off to Cottingley Springs, which was down that way. Now this was a narrow gauge electric railway, so that probably means that it had electric engines on it, small ones, might have been 2 foot. Somebody who's seen that piece of rail, maybe an expert, can identify it and help write in the comments on what that was. But down there was what's called Farnley Briggs, and that was a mine down there. Now there's nothing left of it. It had a shaft, and it's now a piece of wasteland where somebody parks the cars. It's all private land. I did try and walk down, but there are horses loose on the road down there, and I don't want to alarm any stock or any cattle or anything like that. We're not here to create any sort of problems for anybody, so we'll stay well away. But that mine down there employed 125 men in 1896, and again a few years later, like 20 years later on the maps, it's abandoned, it's disused. So the chances are this track was probably taken up as well. But having said that, this company owned at least 15 mines, and I know 12 of those were in this very area around me. They're not open cast like you think of mines today, or even huge underground mine shafts like you would think of back in the day. They were quite small, following the seams. But the railway went up this way, and this is our real evidence now of a railway line was here, because we're going onto an embankment. I will show you that embankment. Oops, if I don't fall over. I'm absolutely covered in mud today, so once we get to the top of here, we're going to call it a day for this video. So top of here is Whitehall Road, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you down there. We can see clearly this is an embankment now. You'd have never built this for cars and tractors and whatnot, because you don't need it. Railways did. And then we've got the embankment at that side as well. Now you can see how foggy it is today and murky. That is pretty much how the research has gone for this railway line, because it was so long ago. Cameras were barely invented, so people couldn't afford them unless you're wealthy. Now the family that built this railway originally, the Armitage family, were wealthy, and they lived in Farnley Hall, which we'll go into in another episode. But they have photographs of their hall. Why would they take places of their places of work, or where they exploited their workers? There you can see the embankment there, and it's getting higher and higher. I would say it probably doesn't go much more than 10 or 15 feet at its highest. That's been chipped away there for a bit of a footpath. And next to our crossing is at Whitehall Road. So this is our crossing at Whitehall Road. It never had any gates on it. It's believed that this is an original post, but it's gone at that side. The reason it had no gates on is because this was mainly shut down by the time traffic became a thing. You've got to remember, the traffic on this road would have been horse and carts. It is a busy road now. I'm going to cross the road because there is one thing left of this crossing to show you that there was something substantial here, and it's this gate post here that is associated with this line, and it would run straight through that field there, across Moor Lane into Soden's Pit, and we will cover that in the next episode. So Whitehall Road, we go through where the gate post was, and then we join another road at the other side. I believe it's called Low Moor Road, Low Moor Lane, and that would go straight into Soden's Pit, and that's where we'll take off from. Before we get over there, we'll just have another quick look at the gate post with the wrought iron still on there. The other one's gone at the other side, but this was an original crossing for the railway. It never had gates as we know, because there wasn't any traffic up in this road until 1911, when the first tram car came this way. And we're going to go over there to that hedgerow. Now behind me is Whitehall Road, where we just were, and I am stood on what was pretty much the track bed for this light railway. I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you what I can see. To get our bearings, Whitehall Road, I've not walked across the field, but there is an entrance into the field. Load of old gate posts down there, absolutely rotten through. I suspect potentially even as old as the railway. Some of them, this one here, that one there, but there's a natural gap here, and at that side, I don't know if you can see it in camera, there is a drainage dike, but it's not here at this side, and the line ran straight across here. That farm wasn't there, and it took a swing to the right to Soden's pit, and then hopefully I can get to a fence, look over that and show you what was there too. So I've got the sun in my eyes, but what you can see at that side of me is the site of Soden's pit. There, and then there's that row of houses here, and at the side of them houses there was a picture taken of the headgear, so I'll try and match that up. Now the railway line used to run straight through this field, so the railway line used to run straight through here and head over towards what's called Lawns Lane, but this is the actual pit site here, and this land is somewhat raised to everywhere else around us, so it's probably slag heaps that have been levelled out, and that's the site of Soden's pit. Now where that house is there's a lane called Walsh Lane, and I believe somebody stood there and took a picture looking this way, and it showed the headgear around here somewhere, so I'll try and match that up for you, and then we'll go further along the line to see if there's anything else left. So now I'm stood about where the headgear was here. There was a building here that was made out of Farnley brick. That farm there is new, all the buildings in the background are new, and let's try and match that in. Soden Quarry that way. The eagle-eyed amongst you will already have seen what I'm on. Look at this. It's an embankment. This is in the back of New Farnley at Leeds, West Yorkshire, United Kingdom. This is really totally unexpected to come across this. But this isn't even the most magical part of this, which I will get to, don't you worry. I'm teasing you a little bit because I like to be such a tease. Now Farnley, there was nothing here when this railway was built. There might have been this row of cottages here, but over there, they're all new. Everything you're looking at, except maybe that white building there, are all new builds, and you can see the embankment. It's been cut away a bit here, I don't know why. There is a gate there, so maybe it was for farmer access to the fields, but what we can see is that natural, unnatural undulation up there. Now I think that was the slag heap, and that's looking back to Soden's, but we can clearly see an embankment here. This is the railway, and I've followed it on maps, but I didn't know that this embankment was still here, which is quite amazing. But what also is more impressive is there's some buildings here, and I never knew these buildings existed. I've not seen these on any maps. I don't know what this was for. If you've got local knowledge, please write in the comments on the video, not on any other format, just on the video so other people can see it. But check out this. Farnley. I've walked around the whole building. There are no glazed bricks on it, but every single brick has come from Farnley. It was quite a substantial building. It might have been a stable. You can see that embankment up there now, clear as day, wonderful. Now I wonder if there is anything left at the actual Farnley site when we get there. This is all rather exciting now because I've also got this building here in front of me. I never knew it was there. There is a little bit of a gate there, but I'm going to try and sneak through there and get in, because I feel like what I'm doing is really quite important, and I'm not doing any vandalism. I say important for me. But we've got this building here, and even more than that, there is a glazed brick there on the floor. I'm going to take that one home and wash that. So we'll put that there. Now I don't see any other obvious ones, but Farnley we're known for doing wonderful sanitary ware, meaning glazing. But look at this building. We've got the brickwork sticking out at the top for the gutters. That is fresh out of the Finley catalogue. We've got all these glazed bricks here. Look at the colours. Now this factory closed down in 1957, but this is way older than that, and the glaze on them, it just looks beautiful. I hope the colours are coming out, and I really do hope I can find a coloured Farnley brick. Now, like I said, I'm going to take that one home, because these bricks are valuable, but I'm not going to do it for that purpose, because I think what I might do is give that brick away to a subscriber, provided I don't have to pay for postage. But what we have here are some brick buildings. I'm going to see if I can knock on a door and come through that gate and get permission to come and film these. That's the side we've just come from. I've knocked on every door around here, nobody's answering, but as you can see, it is uncared for. But this is the other side of that building. Again, we've got some more of the beautiful glazed brick, and what we would rest the guttering on at the top. Now, quite often these would have glazed brick inside as well. Now, there's been a fire there, look. Glazed brick at that side. And we've got that kind of building there, I don't know what that is. And then we've got a pen over there. But this building here, could this have been stables? This is glazed brick down there, and we can see here we've got Leeds Farnley. Absolutely beautiful. Yes, it is somewhat in a state of repair, but they built these themselves, and they'd probably have built these with leftover bricks from orders, hence why they're putting glazed on the inside. Now, I doubt it was a stable, because there's nothing in here to indicate that. We've got the floor covered in, again, it looks like random coloured glazed bricks. Beautiful. At least it's got a roof on it, so it is preserved to an extent for now. We have more bricks on the floor down here. These are more modern brick from where that lintel went across. So we now need to go back along the line. That is the pen. That looks older. Actually, the bricks look very similar. So it could well be stables. Now we're going to be moving on from that. That was a rather exciting thing to come across, really, when you're expecting to find nothing. But we've got it. There it is. It might have been offices, it might have been stables, I don't know. Because I would imagine in the very, very early days of this railway line, it would have been pulled by horses, not electric locomotives. As I've read, that would have probably been later in its life, because this part of the railway would have been open until sort of the 50s really, because I think Soden's Pit was open until about 57, something like that. But we can't go anywhere beyond here now, because I'm going to show you that embankment there behind me, and you can see them houses, modern housing estate. The next time we can pick this line up is where it crosses Lawns Lane in New Farnley, and I'll see you there. So where we've just been is directly that way, and the line, after coming where the embankments were, comes through this housing estate, and then it is actually following this path now. This is coming up to Lawns Lane. Now it does veer off slightly that way, but it also went straight on here because there was a siding. And from what I've seen on the maps, it looks like it was a raised embankment siding. But it looks like there's nothing left of that. And the line curved round and went through that there, crossed Lawns Lane. Now I have read somewhere that there is a photograph of a train crossing Lawns Lane, but I have not seen it and I can't find it. But this is where the siding was, and then it goes through there. I'm going to see if I can get access to that land because it is private. From the point of the view of the narrow gauge railway, this is the end of the line for us on being able to see anything physical. I'll show you why. With the siding being there, it would then run through here. Now I've been speaking to the farmer that owns that, and I can't get access to it unfortunately, but there is an embankment covered in trees, he says. But he can also remember an enamel sign being here warning traffic that there being a railway crossing. Now unfortunately over the years that enamelled sign has been moved and battered and absolutely destroyed, so that is now unfortunately lost to history. But I'm going to have to go to the maps to show you what was over there. Here we are looking at a map from the early 1900s. We're looking at Whitehall Road, and in the centre of here where we've got Whitehall Road. What I'm circling here now is where we started filming today. We didn't cross the field, we rejoined here on Lowmoor Lane, and then here is Soden's Pit. We took our photograph from about there, looking across at where the pit headgear was, the pumping station it actually was, and we can see there's a number of sidings in there. Now I'll just re-centralise that, and I'm going to drag across what it looks like today, because we saw it from the air. There we go, nothing. There is all those farms there now which weren't there when this railway line was running. This is all narrow gauge. Now the people that used to work at that pit lived in this row of houses called Long Row, and I will put some pictures of those up for you now. They have all been destroyed. I believe they were knocked down sometime around 1966, 1967, along with all the other housing related to this Farnley iron clay works. And I'll bring it down to a modern view again for you. And as you can see, those houses gone. Nothing there. Going back to our older map, we can follow the mineral railway. And the next place we joined it was where the embankments were and where the buildings were that were made out of fire clay bricks from Farnley with the glazed up windows. That is this building here. There is a building mark there that's a ruin, unclear as to what they were, I suspect they were related to the railway line, but I'm unsure. Now we've got these buildings here, they've all gone as well around the recreation ground. They were related to this mine, this railway line and mines. This is the embankment, and then we get cut off here. We can't follow it any further at that point. I'm going to drag that down because everything we see there, what we're following now, has all been swallowed up by modern housing. Now New Farnley was nothing without the family ironworks and clay works. As you can see, that's all being built on. And the next time we join this is here at this crossing. That's where our siding was. This is where our footpath goes, and then there was a crossing here with enamel signs on in the 1950s, and then it goes off here into a load of sidings. I will just peel that back so you can see there's nothing there, row trees, and then we'll re-centralise this, and we can see how extensive the end of the line was. Got branch lines going off up there, and it looks like this bit here could have been a bridge. It probably was a bridge. And then down here, this is confirmed as a locomotive shed. Now I'm putting on this old map. This map is a hand-drawn map by somebody who used to work there, and is marked clearly that that was a loco shed. He's also drawn an embankment that's got a break in it. Perhaps that was later when the bridge was no longer in use. Now we'll go back to the other map. So this is what the loco shed was, and we can see all these lines going off here. Now this one here clearly joins these sets of lines here, and this goes off into the Farnley iron and clay works, because the Farnley iron and clay works was absolutely riddled with narrow gauge lines, and I will bring that across now to show you. Hopefully we can see some of that, get some of that in, and you can just see how busy that is with railway lines, and we will be covering this in the next episode. But before we go there, I just want to show you what's there today. This series we are covering the Farnley branch line, but in order to cover that, we've gone back in time a bit further to find out why it was there in the first place. If you can see that pond there behind me, that is part of the reason why it existed, and on the other side of there, because this episode we're going to be looking at the Farnley iron and clay works and the people that owned it. So I'll just turn the camera around quickly. So we're on the edge of New Farnley, and this pond is known as Clay Pond because it used to feed the ironworks, which is just over that side, and there's a photograph taken from about here with this pond in. It's not a very good photo, and I suspect it was taken probably around 1900. Note the chimneys and just how busy it looks, whereas now, as far as I know, there's nothing left on that site. But we will have a look, and we'll see what's left. So for the time being, I'm going to try and get over there and see what remains of that side, because this is right on the edge of the site. Now I've made it to the other side of the pond, which is there. Now where that wooden structure is, there is an outlet, and down here it's obviously been hollowed out, and there's a stream running down there. And our iron and clay works at Farnley was here. in all that there. Now I don't know if I'll get a better shot than that, but I think that is the water supply and where it came in. But I will look to see if there's anything else, and if I see anything else whilst I'm walking around, because it's all gone as far as I'm aware, it's all been knocked down. So as I go along and I find any more rubble or anything like that, if it's got markings on it, I'll be sure to take a film of it and show you. I hope you can see that down there through the trees. That's the clay pond. It's a long way down there. And I have come up a long slope here. Now there were mines on site at the clay works, a number of them. When we go to the maps, I'll point out how many shafts there are in this area. So I suspect, because this is a very unnatural hill, I think this is spoil. So right down there and over this way, and the clay farm, the clay factory is down there to the right. That is the farm where we were at, and he said there was an embankment, and I think he means this, but to be quite honest with you, I don't think that's it at all, because the line came round the front of that where there was an engine shed, or I think it was an engine shed, and various other lines then pulling off to the right and going into the clay works. Now if you watch the last episode, the farm that we came across is over that brow. Round there is various structures and what I think was a railway shed, but we can see a holler in this field here going through there. Now I think that is our railway line that we're looking for, so I'll try and pick it up down there because it wasn't on top of here. On the maps where I am, it does show there were structures here. I don't know what they were, but we can clearly see Leeds bricks. Here's some more here, you can barely read these. Farnley brick. As we go along, we'll see what there is, but I think our railway line ran down there. I made it down that embankment. It's really quite steep and overgrown. That is the track bed, clear as day. At this point, I am not certain if this is narrow gauge still or standard gauge. It's difficult to tell. Even from the maps, it's difficult to tell. But that's where it ran, and then behind me is a large expanse there. So this large expanse is where it goes round here, but somewhere around this point here it goes into what was Farnley Iron and Clay Works. It was closed by 1957. So the railway was gone. This looks like a bit of a, I don't know if somebody's done this on purpose or whether it was put here to control it when the railway was here. But that is Farnley clay. But this is our track bed on this side here. Now we can see what we've got here, look. That might look like brick to you, but it's not. It's red spoil. That is because amongst all this is coal. There. And coal mining used to be inefficient, especially when this place was running. There are shafts and mines all under this ground here. So the spoil used to come out and be piled up on places like that. Bearing in mind these trees were here, and sometimes in the summer heat it used to catch fire and it would smoulder, and it would be seen to steam when it rained on it. These would burn for years, and they would quite often just leave them burning. So I think that there is our way, would have been our way in. But our track bed here has been cut off by what is now a bit of a pond. So that coal could burn for years, and it would compact and it would go that red, and then it would be called red spoil. And then of course you would just get your natural spoil from the first episode when nothing grows in it. Again, we've got Farnley brick literally littering the place. Now our track bed goes there somewhere, so I don't know if I can pick that up just yet. I left the track a little bit up there, and I've come up onto the bank side here, and you can see how flat it is there, and this is where it entered the fireworks, and it came back out a little bit further down that way, which that'll be in the next episode when we leave the fireworks. But for now we'll go inside and we'll see what remains, and I've also got some interesting things to show you, and we'll look at those while I go around and I'll see what's left inside that facility. And I am not joking when I tell you it is massive. All these roofs that you can see right over there, right to down here, and all round there is absolutely huge. This site was. It had open cast mines, it had mines that were bell mines to start with, it had deep shaft mines, and they are all running under this area where I'm stood. But for the moment we'll get in there and we'll see if there's any structural buildings left at all. I suspect there isn't, but we'll find out. Now that is Farnley iron and clay site. That's the site of where all the work continued. But before we go in there, we've got an original entrance. It's the only one. And that's it. That's the original entrance for some of the workers. I would imagine this would be more like an office gate, but it's got the gate there, it's got the posts, and a ton of ironwork. So let's go in and see what we can find. Now I'm on the site of what was the fire clear works. Now it was believed to, well, from everything I've read, I believed it was completely destroyed and knocked down, but that's not true, because you can see that building behind me. That is part of the iron and fire clear works of Farnley. It's quite exciting stuff. I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you what's left. There's a few buildings, so we'll have a look. So what we're looking at here is the building of the fire clear works of unknown use. It's clearly made of glazed brick, which this site was well known for and lauded over. And we've got those there. We've got an original doorway that's been blocked up. Down here we have another doorway and a step still in situ. Now that was an unknown building, but where the vehicles are parked there, I've spoke to somebody who knows this little bit of the site quite well, and that was originally a building there, the estate office, and until not too long ago it remained in situ. But we've got original cobbles down there. And what's even more exciting is somebody knows what this building is here. Now it looks quite modern with the modern tiles on there. Modern rendering. But check out the floor. Cobbled stone. Finely glazed drainage trough. And I've been informed this was the stables for pit ponies, which would make sense because that building there is the caretaker's office. In the early days, one of the biggest commodities on these places to be stolen would have been the livestock. So that is the caretaker's office. I've been in there. There's no original features in there. It has been well renovated and it is a looked after building, and it is a pleasure to see that that's there. And again, this is in front of the stables. As you can see, we've got the fire clay all down there, and then it stops at the end here. And what we have at the end here, I've been informed that that building there, we can see the fire clay doorway with a glazed brick, that was a food kitchen preparation area for the workers. And if we're coming a bit closer here, we've got these windows remaining glazed brick around the edges. Absolutely beautiful. And then we've got more fire clay down here. And then we've got these buildings here. These look like warehouses to me. And I was informed that that building at the end was an office. And there was loads of paperwork found in there. But it is highly likely. But when we look at the front of this building, you can see we've got the original stone lintels in place there. That one's been altered slightly. We've got this doorway here. I wish there was somebody working there today. I can see through that window there that there is a modern breeze block wall on the inside. And then here, look at that archway. Amazing. That was a huge doorway, you can see that. Almost straight line down this side here. And then just tied in at one point. And then we've got this here. Again with the glazed brick. Now there isn't much more left on this site. So we'll pick up the railway line shortly after this. I'll just come round the side there to show you these. Unfortunately, we can't get in those ones today. So we are here on the site now, and there are original buildings for sure. This one here is 1901, and it is probably part of where they made urinals and baths, because I've spoke to a gentleman who owns all these buildings here, all these, and that one at the back that you can see peeking up, and these ones at the front here, and that huge one there which is cladded. But they're all original buildings from the iron and clay works. This was clay. That at the back was a hopper apparently, where they mixed the materials, and this was a production line in these sheds for sanitary wares. Now he's uncertain what this building was for. That's got a date stone in there of 1901. This building here has a date stone behind the cladding of around 1897, he seems to think. But all original buildings. Inside that one is glazed bricks, and I would even go as far as to say that is an original piece of gutter in there as well. So we've got all that, and then we've got these buildings here, and I will go around the front of this one as well. This is where we start the video today. You can see that on both maps. This is known as the clay pond locally, and it was used to feed the Farnley Iron Works, which later became known as the Farnley Iron and Clay Works. I do use those terms interchangeably. It's the same company. We walk up here. This is a really steep hill, and it is full of rubble. Now I believe a lot of the buildings that were knocked here were probably just piled up in this area here to also create a walkway to get up to this area here. Looking on the left map, that's the engine shed I'm circling there. And then going over to the right map, this is the actual area where we were walking, trying to find any remnants. Now it is difficult to see anything here because all the topography has changed. It is uneven and quite literally all over the place, and I did find difficulty in finding where the railway was. When I did eventually find it, where it runs, the ground is a bit hollow, and we pick up the track somewhere around there. You can look on both maps on that. You can see where the railway goes round. This is where we followed it. And we lost it about here where it entered the site, if you look on both maps. Now the modern day industrial estate is a lot lower than the ground around, and I believe that is because all this was mining area. The buildings we've seen today, or should I say on this episode, I'm zooming closer, the map will change. The buildings we saw today are here. This row here. There was a travelling crane on the outside, you can see that there. And this was supposedly the caretaker's house. This is where the vans were. That's all been knocked down, but those are still there. And then we have the building across here, which was the stables. We've got an air shaft marked there as well, look. You can see that. Now the big building that we've seen is here. That'll be our reference point. That's original 1901. These buildings I've got inside to, and we've got some footage of that. I'm going to zoom out just to show you how extensive the site was. This industrial site is not a small industrial site. It is huge. All this area here was pits basically where they were digging the clay out. We can see one across the road there, look, Grove Colliery. And if you look down there, we've got an air shaft. Got another air shaft there. There is literally air shafts everywhere on this site. I'll just move it in one more time. Again, we've got the air shaft down there, and if we look where I'm centralising now, this is marked as a day hall, but there are also air shafts around here as well. And under there, and I have no doubt it extends underneath to where we were. So I've got some other images to show you, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the Farnley Iron and Clay Works. This is an aerial photo of the Farnley Iron and Clay Works. That building there is the one that was built in 1901 with a chimney next to it and a line of roofs of the buildings that still exist. All the photos that I'm going to show you are of the clay works. Some I've taken myself, some I've found over the internet, and I've actually managed to find a couple of photographs of engines that used to run this as well. The family that used to own this lived at Farnley Hall in Leeds. I will tell you about that towards the end of this video. Originally it started as an ironworks in 1844, and it was run by the Cliff family, which were descendants of the Armitage family. The company decided to exploit the high quality coal and iron and fire clay beneath the property, and the brothers began to manufacture pig iron in coal blast furnaces, and the firm soon became renowned for making best Yorkshire iron. This expensive metal was ideal for special purposes like the manufacture of piston rods, connecting rods for steam locomotives where strength was critical. Due to the large reserves of fire clay beneath Farnley, it expanded production into the manufacture of glazed bricks and porcelain items. All the buildings that survive today are in relation to sanitary works like urinals and baths. In 1893 it manufactured 500,000 bricks and exported them to America for use in the new Congress Library buildings in Washington. And in 1900 it's estimated that 1,500 miners and workers were employed by the company. The bricks are used all over the world. They've turned up in America, and there are even some that are in Harrods in London. The company originally opened in 1844, In 1882, they were noted in a journal of science to produce the highest quality of sanitary ware in the country. In 1889, the company amalgamated with all the other brick manufacturers and porcelain manufacturers around the area, with companies from Bermontoffs, Huddersfield, Halifax, Hipperholm. The company was called Lefco, the Leeds Fireclay Company, and it had a relatively short history for a company of its type, being formed in 1889, and the whole sites and company ceased to trade by 1957. This is thought to be due to over-exploitation of available resources. The site was left abandoned for a number of years, with all the buildings still standing, and local kids used to play in the area. Certain areas got certain names. There were parts of it that we were scared of. And I did pick up a story on a child that went missing. He was a 4-year-old living in the area. Back then, the local beck was not covered in. The boy had wandered off playing on the beck bank when he slipped on the snow and fell into the beck, and he was drowned. The Armitage family that did originally own the property lived in what's called Farnley Hall. I'll put a picture of that up for you. A house has been in existence on that property for over 1,000 years. In 1944, it was handed over to the Leeds Council. Whilst the building looks original on the outside, I did go inside to find out if there were any original features left. I was promptly told that everything had been ripped out. There was no original features within the property, except perhaps a little bit of coving and maybe some boarded up fireplaces. I was also told there was a stained glass window. I did seek permission to go in and ask if I could take a photograph of that window, but I was denied access. I did ask if they would take my camera and take the photo for me, but again, they denied me access to that stained glass window, so unfortunately I don't have that to show you. But we do have some pictures of the Farnley Hall as it is today, and some pictures of when the Armitage and Cliff family lived there. I have come across a very rare photograph of a small Avonside locomotive. This one was actually at Farnley. They also ran smaller engines, Hudswell and Clark 04 OST with the number WN250 1883, and a Manning Wardle 06 OST WN 1407 1898. They did use local engines as well as engines from farther afield, and these were standard gauge that would run onto the main line and run past the Dunlop site, which we'll be covering in the next episode, and all the way down to Farnley Junction. Again, that will be in the next episode. What you can see behind me is an embankment. I was hoping to get on top of there, but as you can see, there's a fence here, and that is all now Whitehall Industrial Estate, and they are doing some construction work up there, so there's no access to that. But about there are some photographs taken of inside the Fireclay works, where it went from standard gauge to narrow gauge and into the Fireclay works. So I'll put those pictures up now for you, and I hope you like them. So that's where we were with the photographs, looking over that way. The embankment's up there, well fenced off. I think the modern industrial estate at the other side of that more or less comes right up to the edge. I did see that this fence runs out down here, so we'll have a look at what that is. This is the end of the fence now, embankment. but I can see at the top of there is a fence right at the top of the embankment. So there's no, I mean, yeah, I could get up there, but there's actually no walking across the top of it because it's where that unit is. Now, strangely enough, where that unit is, it used to be a pit at the other side and very low down, and there used to be a tunnel that went through here to access the fire clear works for the workers. And there was an old lodge at the other side. I haven't got any photographs of those, but what I have got is a photograph of the old tunnel that used to go through there. I'll get there, I'll match that up, and then we'll get onto Whitehall Road and try and walk back along the bridge as far as we can and see what's left of the embankment to access. Before we continue on down the line, we'll just go to the side-by-side map. This is all the Farnley ironworks. And where we are, we're about here to start with. If you look across onto the right map, you should be able to see that a little bit better. We're about there on the new industrial map. This is where the building. Back to the old map, and you can see where all the sidings go in to the Finley ironworks. We covered all this on the last episode and what buildings existed and remained. So this time we're going to go down, follow this embankment. This I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer for you to see if we can get any better detail. So there we can see is the underpass. We've got some pictures of that. And we managed to walk along the embankment here. We come to this bridge. And then this is what we mentioned as the Maybar Works chemical, which is magnesium. So I've just changed it onto another map where we can see in a bit more detail Whitehall Road Bridge, the magnesium works, Maybar Works, but later on this whole area becomes Dunlop and Rankin. And we try and follow this line as best as we can, but unfortunately we can't get on a lot of it because it is built on and it's so overgrown, and some of it is actually in gardens. There is nothing left of this underpass, and as we can see it was a bit of a ramp with a gate on it, and it's a housing estate now, so there's nothing left of that. I'm not certain what this little bit is here that we're looking at. We've got signal posts there. This line was limited to 25 miles an hour. And then we managed to rejoin the line about here. And then I walk along the track bed here. I find something here, which we'll see on the video. Now I don't know what this is. Any clues, anybody? You let me know. Once you've seen the video, tell me what you think this is. And then we come down, and this is the side we walk down here to this underpass here, and we'll pick the map up there a bit later on. So we're at the bottom of the embankment here, and just behind me there used to be a tunnel or an archway going through to the Farnley Clay Works. I'll take a picture, I'll match it up, but we've also looked at this on the main map, and that's where it was, just there behind me. Turning the camera around for a better look, you can see it's quite a high embankment going over that way towards Whitehall Road. Over there was the Clay Works, and it was just here. Still trying to walk around to Whitehall Road. There is a photograph taken from somewhere around in front of me looking at the embankment with some old buildings in there and an old truck. I think my mate will like that. But the embankment here, I'll turn the camera around and show you. So over there was our tunnel, and this is the embankment. It's got to be 40 or 50 feet high here, and we might be able to walk back across there, and we will try when we get to the bridge. Now where we've come from is down there. There's our embankment there, and it's quite low here. All this is new, except for that house on the corner there. But all this was called Wilfrid Street, Wilfrid Road, I think it was. No, Wilfrid Street and Wilfrid Terrace. But there's a picture taken from about here, looking at that embankment, which you can see there. I'm going to match that in now. Difficult to know exactly where it was because there's no landmarks, there's nothing. Only old maps to go from, but I think it's about here. I've made it on top of the embankment finally. I got on at the bridge and I've walked back. I'll turn the camera around and just to give you a bit of bearing on where I am at the moment. So we started our video off right up there today, and just down there is where the tunnel was underneath the embankment. And down there is all new housing estate, care facility, and I'll go back onto that in a moment. But this is our track bed, more or less. I'm probably a bit close to the edge right now, so it was probably a little bit more that way, but that side has all been built up. Now that place there, the Farnley clay and iron works, closed in 1957, but it did have a standard gauge railway line entering the premises, and this is where it ran. This was single line, this point, and then down there is where the terrace was, where the picture of the van was, the three properties, looking at the embankment in the background. This is where we're going to join the actual track bed here, and this is walking towards Whitehall Road. Now strangely enough, this is a bit of a public footpath up here. Now that's embanked at that side, but it never would have been, because it would have gone down, and then more or less directly here at the other side was a huge clay pit for digging out and making bricks, as we saw in an earlier episode. And if you haven't seen those, you need to go back and watch, because I found some really exciting stuff in those, and it's kind of exciting to see what's ahead of us now. Now the railway bridge we're going to no longer exists, but I have found photographs, and I've actually found aerial photographs as well. And I'll get the camera back on when I get up there, and I'll show you what's what. It is winter now, so the sunlight isn't very good. I am next to a main road, so it's going to be quite noisy. I'm still on the embankment, and at once upon a time that would have led to a bridge, but it's gone, knocked down, road widened, so you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit. But we have got a couple of landmarks. We've got the original road that used to be there, and the embankments, of course, but I'll point those out to you, and I'll overlay some photos, and I've got some aerial pictures as well to see to show you, sorry. So I'll zoom in on the bridge, and what was across the road was quite amazing. Where I am now is still at the Farnley clay and ironworks side, but where I'm stood used to be double track, but it didn't go for long. It soon went off into a single track. I'll turn the camera around. That is where we've just come from. This is on top of the embankment, and this sign here is where a bridge used to run straight across that way into what was a huge iron production works called Dunlop and Rankin. And over there, used before that was Dunlop and Rankin, where those builds are there, that used to be a chemical works for magnesium, and they would test the quality of metals, the type of balls they used to make, the magnesium balls. So if you had steel or gold or whatever else, they would produce the balls that you could put this product in and it would test the quality of it. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I'm sure if a chemist ever watched it, you'll know what I'm on about. Now that iron and steel works was huge, and it's difficult to date along with any of this railway line. This line, I can't find dates of Parliament passes of when it was allowed to be constructed. We can only guess, but Dunlop company started, or it was registered already as a company in 1881. Now I don't think they moved to this site here up until probably about 1900, somewhere around there, and then it developed into Dunlop and Rankin. It was a huge site, and I've got loads of photographs of it. I'm going to put them up, and you'll see the railway line running at the side of it. You'll see the bridge. You'll see old buildings clustered over there, which used to be the chemical works, called Mayball Works. But I've never known the dates to when it opened and closed. Things are a bit of a mystery at this point. So I'll get down there, I'll take some photographs, then we'll move to the other side of the road. So just before I get across the road, we've got all this stonework here. That is rubble from the buttresses of the bridge at this side. I have got some photographs of this bridge being demolished as well. Now I'm across the road, that's where we just were, that's the old clay works, we're past all that now. The bridge used to come across here to about the middle of that road there, and all this has been dug out, and you can see there rise of the embankment. Now I'm going to try and get up there, because there is a little bit of a path. I really should get my gimbal out, I think, and I don't know what we're going to see up here. There's not a lot left of this railway line. This part here, I believe, closed in 1988. So this is the track bed. There's our bridge end there, and it will have gone straight across here like that. We can walk across here a little bit, and I'm hoping we might be able to get round to there. That's where we've just come from, still on the track bed, and this is where it is. Now I'm not certain if this is somebody's garden or not. I will knock on some doors and see if I can get permission, because there's some photographs taken from about that fence looking this way. I did knock on a door, nobody answered, so I've not been able to gain access to that, but it doesn't matter because I've only come down about 100 feet and that is our track bed. And I think the photographs I'm after were taken around here. A track bed there, and I think the photographs were taken up here because these were the huge sheds that were the Dunlop and Rankin works. So I'll just take some photographs and try and match them in. So I'm now stood on the track bed here. This is about as far as we can come this way. This is it here. And as you can see, it's a bit of a thicket. I don't think I'm going to get through there, which means I'm going to have to go to the engine shed and come back and see how far we can get. There is a picture taken from around here, so I'll match that in as well. It's worth noting while I'm here, this is Dunlop Avenue, Ironstone Drive, all related to the industry. Right, we'll try and rejoin the track bed. I'm getting there slowly. I've come up to a vantage point, so I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm just going to point a few things out to you on where we are really. What we're looking at there is Dunlop Estate. That is where all the factory units used to be, and the railway line used to run at the back of that building there, and all their gardens are on the track bed. And then you can see that fence there, that's where the track bed runs. And I'm hoping to join it a bit further around the corner there. Anyone who makes YouTube videos will tell you it's alright looking at Google Earth, but you don't really know till you get there. No. I've come on towards the track bed, and from the air it looks quite clear, but in the end, I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you where we're at and what's going on. That's the back of our housing estate here, and this fence here is the line of where the railway property finished. Here. Now, we can see here, it is on a bit of an embankment here, but down the other side you can see the rooftops. So I can actually get onto the track bed here. And there's a little path here. Now I don't know where this goes, but this was double track, all this. And there is a photograph from about here, I think it is, looking up the track bed. You can just see the houses in the background there. That's why there's a bit of a track here. They've got access to it, look, with some steps. So I'll take that photograph and then we'll try and get to where I can walk on. Continuing on, I'm going to have to leave the track bed because that's it there. It's just too overgrown, there's no access to that. What a shame it is not a public footpath. I'm going to have to go through the farmer's field again. I'll stick to the edge. The horses are in a different field over there, so hopefully I don't have to turn back and go all the way around. That's where I was in there. Looking at the condition of the fence, I would say that was an original boundary marker. I am keeping an eye open, that's our track bed over there. Keeping my eye open to see if it opens up into any kind of walkway. I might end up having to force my way through because it's not far. And I don't really want to go in the horse's field. If I come in here, look, we can see a bit of a delve there, and there's the embankment. So I've not gone through the horses field, which is there. I've decided to push my way through the track bed because it's a long way to walk round. and I've come on here and I'm quite glad I did now, because I found something. It's quite exciting. I've got no idea what it is. I'll have to have a bit more of a study of the maps and see if something comes up, but I have studied them really well. So I think this has been pushed here from the engine shed behind me. Let me show you. That is where I've come from. I've pushed my way through there, that bit there, but I've got this. Can you see that? Coping stone, coping stone. We've got a sleeper there. There's a sleeper there as well. Huge lintel pieces of wood and loads of stone. So something has been demolished and pushed to this area. I've got to continue on. There's a bit of an animal trail down there. Animals are smaller than me, so I still have to push through it, and we'll get down to the other end shortly, I hope. This is something worth showing you. We've got a post. It is quite literally the only one I've seen that looks like this. That's what drew my attention in, and the metalwork there. As we can see, it's attached. But what I have got is something a little bit more exciting to show you. Here. This one here has still got the metalwork on it. The cables. I'm almost at the end of the line. I'm hoping I can get through this way, not into somebody's back garden or fence. I don't actually know. But when we get there, that's going to be pretty much the end of our line. A little bit further down the line, our posts were back there. I've got some in front of me. I didn't think anything would exist, if anything at all, really. These are later editions. I don't know what sort of dates these were used, but if anybody knows, please tell me. I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you them. It's the posts. As you can see, still in situ. Some of them have wire on, because this was a working railway line, don't forget, up until 1988, so they had to keep people off. This was an embankment. Now everything that you're looking at down there is modern, because this here used to be a dye works. All around there used to be a housing estate. There was chapels, there was mills. They were all back-to-back terraces, and the main road, Royd Road, just running up there, used to be the main road up towards Gildersham before that ring road was built. The ring road's down there, if you know Leeds. But you can see our fence post following through there. Hopefully we can push through there, because that is not a garden. That should take us to what was once a railway bridge. I've made it through. You can see our fence post there. That's the end of them. It doesn't look like there's any more. You can see the shape of the embankment, and these houses are now pretty much where the embankment was. And I'll switch the camera on next when we get to the end, unless I see something that's relevant to the railway. Now I've made it to the end of the line. This was a turning triangle, but there did used to be a turntable here at one time as well. I'll go to the overhead maps and I'll show you what was here, because it's so difficult to see now. At this point we'll jump back onto the maps. We've zoomed this out quite a way on the side by side. If you look on the left, this is where we've walked down. If you look on the right, you can see what it is today, just overgrown. It's about here where we found the pile of rubble. Now that is a drain that goes underneath there, but I don't think that pile of rubble has anything to do with that. And then we walk down the side of these buildings, and then we come to this road here, which was an underpass if you look on the left map. And then if you look on the right map, you can see that it is now a road. There's the turntable. We'll zoom it in a bit better shortly. Now if we look to the top of the map, we've got this road that comes through here, and we have a quick look at this underpass there, which used to be the main road, down onto Gelderd Road, which is over here. But there we now have a ring road where there used to be nothing, so that's now the main road. The underpass is closed off, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. We can see all around the area used to be factories, mills, housing, all demolished. Nothing remains except for the little underpass, which is there, and this railway bridge here, what we take a look at, farmers access, and then the engine shed, which I've actually got some photographs up, so I'll put those on. Sadly, virtually nothing remains of this site. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. That is where we came from. You can see the top of the embankment there, which would have run across here. This has all been dug out and lowered, but you can see straight away the embankment at that side. This was quite a narrow lane that went under the railway, and I've got a photograph taken from down there looking up, and I'll show you what that was like. That is where it went off towards the main line, Leeds Dewsbury. Where we were at the back of the houses up there, where the fence posts were, there was another line that went off in that direction that goes under a bridge, and we'll get up there shortly, but we'll just have an explore down this side first. That's where we come from. This was an underpass for a farmer's track up that slope there, and that slope is important, but this is your embankment here, and I think it's about where I'm stood now, or just a little bit further on. About here is where the turntable was, which I pointed out to you in the overhead maps. I don't think we can go any further than that, because that goes off and joins the main line. Down there, I'm hoping that you can see the traffic on that road there. That's the ring road. That never used to be there. This here used to be the main road. Down that way. Down there and round to the right. And it used to come here. This is the way it used to come. This is still part of Royd's Lane. But sadly it is fenced off and you can't get to the tunnel anymore. But this used to be the main road through onto, I think it's Gilderson Road at the other side. But it was also access to the fields and to the bridge that we're going to go see up there. But we've still got a cobbled road. But it's pretty crazy to think that this was the main road. Everything that was here has gone except this. That railway above it is the main line, Leeds Dewsbury. Take you off that way to Leeds. That would take you over to a bridge over the ring road, what's there now, that would have like, I think something like 8 tracks over it at one time. If you look at it at Google Earth, it's pretty crazy. But unfortunately, we can't access this tunnel, which would be quite special to go through there. That used to access something called Highfield Farm, as well as a pub called the Wheat Sheaf. There was clay works at that side as well as a few homes. I've not been to the other side, but I would imagine it's also fenced off like this. I don't really know why. I suppose it would potentially be a murder alley or something, I don't know. But we'll get back up there towards the engine shed. I will walk to the end there though, because there are some photographs taken from about there where you could see all the lines going off. Underneath that house there, underneath these houses here. And basically going looking down that road. This is the track bed. Absolutely nothing left of it. But from here, there are some photographs taken of what the shed used to look like. So what I'm showing you now is the embankment where the underpass was, which this was a little farm track that came up here. Now them buildings there are the site of the engine shed. It held 16 engines in total. But this bridge here that we're about to go on is really quite remarkable because the builders left it. Whoever built this estate kept this bridge. Yes, it's a footpath and an access still, but I suppose they could have torn it out and built a newer bridge. But this is just beautiful. And we'll go down and we'll have a look, but while I'm up here we'll get some bearings. Look at that. We've still got railway posts up here, farmers access. That is where we've come from. Let me go to the bridge. It's likely it may have been wider or built to be wider, but that's difficult to say. But that's where your railway ran, underneath there. Back to Dunlop and Rankin through those back gardens. Following that hedgerow all the way up, right up to Farnley Clay Works, to the narrow gauge we've looked at. There were a few engineering buildings around here to do with the shed that was here. It used to be known as 25G up until about 1925, I think, and then it was known as 55C. Closed in 1966, I believe, and that's exactly where the shed was. Down here is our railway line going off that way, because it's a triangle joining the main line, which then comes back up to our embankment there, which would then run up there, and they would both join up there, going off to Dunlop and Rankin. There is actually a video of this place online explaining how they used to turn. Now the watering was at the back of the shed here, so the back of the shed was about there, and this is where the watering was to fill up the steam engines. There are some pictures of this shed. I will try and line up a few shots. It is going to be difficult because the only landmark we've got is this bridge, and I'll show you this from below as well. I've come down to show you the underside of this bridge, but I'd also like to show you where the line ran, where the back of the engine shed was, whilst I'm down here. We will get a better look at the bridge in a moment. Double track. You can see the embankment. It would follow down through those houses there. The back of our shed, somewhere around here, but the shed wasn't exactly butted up to this bridge. There was a gap and there was a line down the side here as well. And all, as you can imagine, it's completely redeveloped. Nothing left except for this bridge. I don't see any iron makers' names on the girders, but I will continue to look at both sides. As you can see, this would have been off up to Farnley branch line. That way, going off to the main line, Leeds New Line, Leeds Dewsbury, and Farnley Flying Junction is down that way. I want to look underneath there at the kind of vaulting that there is on there. You're not going to see any iron makers at this side. And then our trains would be turning on this triangle when there were steam trains, of course, not when there were DMUs. And here we are at this side of the bridge as well. And I find it amazing that this is here and it's been made a feature of for this housing estate. If only more people would do these sort of things. Got a little bit of ironwork up there. Again, no makers on the ironwork at this side. I'd like to say thank you for watching this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't seen them all, please go back, watch the other episodes. I also cover all kinds of things that just spark me interest on this channel. So please go around, have a look. In the meantime, take care, hit subscribe, thumbs up button for me, and please share it. Bye bye.